Good morning, everybody, and happy squeaks. Good girl, Kiri. Happy squeaks from Kiri. Happy Tuesday. This is Anne, and welcome back to Reaper Pro Tips with me, your host, my very squeaky dog, and disembodied voice, Justin. Hello, hello. Hey, Mo, thank you for the resub. 3 months and counting. Fantastic. Hey, good girl. Did you get a ball? Oh, no, where did it go? There it went. Good girl. So we have a very high chance of Kiri emergency today, guys. She did not go this morning. So at some point during this cast, I'm certain at the most inconvenient time, Kiri will blow up. So just saying it. Hey, Trixie, how's it going? Yes, yes, yes. All right, so we are doing Duelist today, as you saw. Yeah, I'm annoyed at the parts of her that are undone. She's so close. She's so freaking close to done. I want to do basing, and I want to do some gold enema. Yes, indeedy. It is that time. Boink. There we are. And that is her number for those who are new to our cast or have not tuned in before. We have Alethea. She's an elf. I still haven't decided what color to make the flower in her hair, but I'm veering strongly toward turquoise at this point. Turquoise and maybe, yeah, we still have to do our eyeballs too. And stuff like that. And one hand needs a little highlighting. Yeah, there's just, when you do a mini on stream, it's like you always get this kind of piecemeal effect where some things are done and some things are not done, and it's like, there we are, much sharper. Oh, am I quiet? Hold on, let me check my evil Windows tray, guys, because, you know, it likes to randomly reset. Let me check my Yeti. Yep. It's sneakily reset. Like, I don't know why the heck it loves to do this. But it does love to do this. And it seems to be random. Like, you know, we'll get a Windows update or something, and then it won't change. And then suddenly, just one day, it'll randomly change. Yeah, I just popped it up. Thanks for the heads up, Dragon Eye. It's just, you know, the settings is just randomly do it. I mean, I'm loud at the best of times, so. So now you guys get me really loud. Really loud. All right, boy, we've got so much to do here. I mean, I haven't highlighted her yellow cord, and I haven't really highlighted the yellow there or there. I haven't done any of this gold MM. I haven't even done the silver MM on the back here. Yeah, it's a frustrating thing because she looks so good, but she's got so far to go. Yeah, I run my streaming setup off Windows, Jetta. More software available. I have, essentially, this is my gaming laptop. I use, for my normal daily use and my Patreon and everything else, I use a Mac. But, this is the machine I had, the extra, laptop machine that had a fair amount of power to it. So. Yep. Is camera doing funny things? Pendrake? What kind of funny things? Are you sure it's camera and not Twitch? We're going to do some stones. We're going to use Saddle Brown. For those of you who are on my Patreon and just saw my $5 PDF finally come out last night. We're going to use, I want some reddish stones this time. So I'm going to use kind of recipes I was talking about yesterday. And I'm going to talk about why they work. There, that works. And maybe even just a little bit of, well, we'll highlight it when we get to it. Okay, cool. So I'm going to actually block in her stone because I'm sick of having anything primed on this mini. So we actually expanded her base. She has a normal base of, if you'll recall, and you can kind of see it. Like, this kind of lighter area here is the original base. So she's got a large cobblestone base, which I chose to expand with green stuff because I like my models mounted on these rounded edge bases. I think they look nicer. I don't really care about gaming. I don't really care as far as having a square base for gaming. I'd just rather have the miniature look good. I mean, I can figure out facing pretty easily with a round base. I think most of us can, unless we've got quibblers in our D&D groups. So we sculpted the rest of this in green stuff. And I kind of wanted it to be like a rounded street curb, a corner, and then the street down below. So I want it all to be kind of in a reddish color on the bricks, and then I might go with more of a dark dirt down on the street. or I might do the same color. So yeah, so we're going to work with reddish colors today, and I wanted to talk about a color that I brought up in my PDF that I released on my Patreon yesterday, which is, and you guys should be impressed, by the way, that I was working on Patreon stuff for you instead of playing WoW on day one. See, this is how you know I'm not addicted to World of Warcraft anymore, is that I'm just like, I have to get this done. Sorry, David, go play WoW. So we're gonna use Saddle Brown. Saddle Brown is color that originally I felt was a little bit weird. Like it's similar to a color I constantly got asked for. That was in the Vallejo line. That's kind of a classic leather color for historical miniatures. And I always kind of thought it was a little odd, but I decided to go ahead and try something like it anyway, because we didn't really have anything like this for a light reddish leather, and it's definitely a color that leather gets. But what is also really good for is, if you read the PDF, is matching things like the Redstone Triad, which are canceled. And so this, because it is a reddish brown, you can tune it to be a lot closer to the canceled Redstone. So that's what I'm doing today. If you want it to be richer, because you notice it's a little bit muted out, and that gives it a little bit better coverage, but if you want it to go a little bit deeper, you can use Ruddy Leather, which remember is also a reddish brown. It's just a much darker reddish brown. And that's what I'm going to be doing. I have 4 drops of saddle here. You can see the color right there. It's not a bad color next to her. It works actually very well with the teal, notice. And it's not bad with the yellow either. But we'll tune it just a little bit. I'm going to drop 1 drop of Ruddy Leather in there, and then you can see the color difference is quite different. And it's that this color, Saddle Brown, is muted, right? It's not as vibrant. Like this one has some punch to it. You can see how bright and you know, how rich it looks next to the washed out color of Saddle Brown. So muted can also mean washed out. In this case, Saddle Brown is a muted brown. Adding a drop of brighter colors, or a drop or 2 of brighter colors, essentially walks back that washed out color a little bit. So you can use any brown or tan or golden color technically for leather. There are leathers of all. You can even use a color, because I mean, obviously there's people who have dyed the leather down through the ages. Although often if you make it a color, it may not read like leather, just because it's not something people are used to. So you may have to like show some texture or something, which is usually difficult on a small model. So you can use any red to tune this closer to a reddish color. I just grab Heraldic because I like it. It's a nice medium toned red. But you could use really any red to tune it. You'll just get a slightly different result. But I'm adding red because I want it closer to Redstone, and I know that Redstone had a lot of red in it, actual pigment, so I need to push it that way. So, okay, so now I've got an initial mix, and I can kind of mix that up and see what it works. And this should give me a nice reddish earth color that I can then tune. So I've gone a little bit too red. You see that it's gone a little bit too reddish, and we've lost a little bit of our brown. So I can come back with 1 more drop of Ruddy Leather. Tune it backwards. There are 2 ways you could deal with that if you get too red. Because all of our reds are they pack a punch. They've got a ton of pigment in them to give them better coverage and more intensity. So you can go about walking that back 2 ways. You can add in more brown, or you can add in a yellow to push it more toward an orange, which is more of a natural brown color. Yeah, we're staying home. I've got all the stuff. I went to Sprouts yesterday and I bought up Thanksgiving food like terrifically. So we're going to have a ton of food for David and me. But hey, leftovers. I believe in freezing leftovers for lazy dinners. So I am all good. Oh yeah, cool. So this is a very close now. This is 4 drops of saddle, 2 drops of Ruddy Leather, and 1 drop of Heraldic Red. And it's a very close match for Redstone. It's really close. So I'm going to look at it kind of next to the figure. When you're mixing a color for basing, it helps to kind of look at it next to the figure and assess whether you think it's going to be a good match. Like, we don't want it to clash. It would be a little clashy with her hair because it's close to it, but it's not the right, the same color. Except that we are separating it by all the rest of the model. So I probably won't have to worry, but I will put just a coat of this down and kind of adjudge it, because of course it's going to shift a little bit as it dries also. So we'll start with this. And then we will tune it. So yeah, we're talking about a lot about colors and choosing colors lately on this stream, which never goes out of style. So just I'm into it lately. That's what I'm trying to talk more about. A lot of you have a lot of trouble choosing colors, so I hope you're listening, because, if you keep telling me how you're having trouble choosing colors, I'm keeping on talking about this stuff for you guys. So you want to kind of always, as you lay it down, assess how it's going to go. Now, right away, I'll tell you, this is going to go really well with the teal, right? Because our teal's, not super bright. It's nice. It's a good color, but it's not, super, super bright. And red and teal naturally go well together. So, because they're almost complements, right? So you've got this nice play where the reddish stone is going to look even more red and the teal is going to look really vibrant. And the hair is far enough away for it not to fight. So I think this is a good color to start with, because the teal really looks good with it. And all the colors down lower on the figure are either that teal or they're going to be neutrals. Now, note the yellow also looks good with this. We almost have a triad. We almost have, here, let me grab color wheel. It's color wheel time. Hold on, let me finish at least base coating my stonework, and then we'll talk color wheel and why this works. I hope you all have ordered color wheels. I used to think color wheels weren't necessary, and for me, I think they really aren't, but if you don't have a good grasp of the complementaries and split complementaries and all that stuff, the color wheel is a good tool for you to learn those things. And if you're trying to find a match for a weird color, you can usually find something close to it by using your color wheel and the add black, add white, add gray sections in it. Because that'll create a bunch of mixes, essentially. And you should be able to find something close to the color that you're working with. And then you can kind of extrapolate from there, looking out. Hold on. Get my little stonework. Technically on the back of the base, where I stop putting in the stonework edging, I can technically paint that black, and I might, to show that it's just the back of the base. That's a visual cue that says don't look here. Don't bother with this for your viewer. I'm going to also paint the street this color for now. And we'll see. Because I thought about just painting it like a dirt street, but if there's a fancy curb, it's probably not a dirt street. I could be wrong, but... Or if it's dirt, I can always paint it over... Paint over it in a darker brown, if I decide to do it that way. There we go. All right. So we've got most of our stuff covered up. And anything on the edge, I can always touch up in black. Some of this, the putty got over the edge here, so I can scrape it off with a fingernail. If you get green stuff on plastic, once it's cured, you can often kind of scrape it back with a nail. It's not too difficult. All right, so red and teal and thing. Now that's a pretty intense red, so I'm going to be dropping it down a bit. Hey, Coops, how's it going? Thanks, Steeklerman. Yeah, Polaris. This is a mix. So we're working with the weird browns, which I just did a PDF of for my Patreon, and that's if you are interested and you want to join it, it's patreon.com/paintingbig. But I do PDFs on MSP colors for my $5 tier, and this month is on the weird browns, and saddle brown is one of those. Rich leather, polished leather, and the other brown, that other brown, nut brown. Those are the 4 browns that I covered this month. So I'm showing essentially how to utilize saddle brown 9428 to mix an equivalent for redstone, which is now a canceled color, so that this is that mix, and it's very close. I heard a Justin in my ear. Do you have a comment, Justin? Let's see. Where's my black and brown? There we go.
Yeah. I accidentally hit my push to talk. Sorry.
Okay. Yeah, yeah, I don't see the problem with making huge Thanksgiving dinner just for two people because I love leftovers and turkey freezes really well actually. So and so does stuffing and things like that. Um, so I have no problem making big Thanksgiving. It just means I have to cook less down the road, and I'll probably do some turkey soup and stuff like that too, or a turkey casserole, something like that. So I can freeze a bunch of meat. We had an 11-pound turkey, so we got a good sized turkey. It's not going to give us that much. It won't be leftovers for weeks or anything. Justin does sound a little bit scratchy, but yeah, it could be because he's sleepy.
Yeah, and the crazy thing is I wasn't even I wasn't up that late last night,
Mm-hmm.
and it really wasn't. I got tired. I thought I was going to be playing WoW, but no, I just went to bed at normal time.
Yep, yep. Yeah, we didn't. David might have played a little later, but I always have to stop and do my stretches and exercises before bed, so it's kind of an
I
incentive for him. Yeah.
I couldn't even get on to my character on my server till like 10 o'clock
Oh,
or 9 o'clock
seriously?
or something. Yeah,
Wow. We had. I
it's
mean,
pretty awful.
we're on a full server with a huge raiding guild because we transferred to Katie's, and
Yeah.
no problems at all. No queue. It's weird. It's listed as a full server, but apparently, at least when we got on, there's no issues. And David got on around 7 p.m. So he should have run into something. But yeah, I was surprised. I mean, pleasantly surprised. But maybe there are
Yeah,
just
that's
some. Maybe.
yeah. I think it's only me that. I mean, me and a couple of the people in our Discord that decided they wanted to play, but it was mainly just the Illidan server for some reason.
Maybe is it an old server?
It is. It's the most popular Horde server I think there is of
Ah,
all the
okay.
servers.
Oh, okay. Well, that
So
makes sense then. Hold on, guys. I'm gonna get in focus because I'm gonna be tilting this up to do the lining on the stones. There. Yeah, it seemed like it was a really good. I mean, like I said yesterday, I was trusting Blizz because they've got enough experience now. They're not gonna like totally have a total crashed launch, you know. But yeah, so yeah, we were able to get on no problem. I think maybe are there some big raiding guilds on Illidan? Maybe Justin or
oh yeah, like top five Horde guilds I think.
right. So that's probably why you were running into it then, because I think Katie's guild is the highest end guild on this server, and I think it's the only real big one for Alliance. So on this server, so maybe that's it then. All the raiders were getting in and starting their grind.
Yeah, because I mean I didn't have a queue. I just couldn't see my characters. Like
Weird.
yeah, I would
So you
log
had a
in and it would
bug,
say, "Oh, your server," and then yeah, it was definitely a bug on Blizzard's end. But
huh?
as I assume people got off, it got better. So
Okay, good. Yeah. Oof. Kind of trippy. The clear pie. Oh, Kiri does like turkey Jetta. I mean, it's not her favorite. She likes duck better. I bought a duck yesterday at the store too. They actually, since it's the holidays, they actually had frozen ducks at Sprouts, and I was like, "Yay!" Kiri loves duck. Duck is a high fat, and since it's a high fat bird, it actually freezes very well. So I don't mind buying ducks that are frozen. It's a lot like turkey that way. Although if duck is even fattier than turkey. The higher fat a meat is, the better it freezes in general. All right, so I darkened down the street a little bit there. Well, good, JT. That means you didn't lose, a decade of your life like I did. It's good that WoW did not appeal to you. I'm to the point, I mentioned it, I'm no longer addicted, and I enjoy it, but I don't sit there and have to play it. It doesn't eat my soul like it used to, so it's a good game for David and I to play to see the expansion.
yeah, I actually didn't get a single level on a character last night.
Oh,
So I
really?
was, and I still went to bed on time basically. So I'm
Good.
kind of with you there. I think the novelty of a new expansion has just it's not really going to be what it was.
Well, it's still World of Warcraft, right? That's the thing. It's always just going to be WoW. So when you've been playing it for as long as you and I have, it's not like it's a new game, right? With a lot to explore. It's going to be WoW. So
Yeah.
So I think that lessens the. I mean, it's a good thing that we're not like totally addicted to it, right? It's not like we need to totally have a game sucking away tons of our life.
I
Um,
agree.
so this is kind of a healthy place to be with WoW, as far as I'm concerned. The whole I can get on for a couple hours, play with David, before bed, and then go to bed. Detox, kill little digital monsters, take out my wrath upon them, and then go. But we actually aren't even level 50, so we haven't even started the new content yet. We're both leveling through a little bit of the old expansion first, just the last expansion, which neither of us touched. So we'll get there.
Yeah, BFA was all right.
Yeah. I don't know. I heard there were some very mixed reviews of it at first, so I didn't start up with it when it came live, and then after a while, I was just playing other things, and so I just didn't go and do it. Now that I've started playing it, I mean, the storylines, there are some good storylines in it, so I may go back and play through it with an alt, but we'll see.
Oh, there are. That's for sure. I will agree with that.
Yeah, and I do like story.
I like the storytelling they did.
Yeah, I do like story in WoW, so I may go and do that. All right, so lining around the bricks essentially with a darker color, and what I'm using here, guys, is going to be black and brown. If I want to de-emphasize the red, then I'm not going to use a dark reddish, a really reddish color to line here. But black and brown 9137 is a reddish brown nonetheless. It's made with red oxides and black, with earth oxides, so it goes with, you can see that it's a good counterpoint. It outlines the bricks very nicely. Yeah, see, that's why I don't do betas, Everlina. Is because then I'm not excited at launch, and I like to be excited for launch. Yeah. Yeah, good. Yes, the numbers on the label KXPX are indeed. So 19, 20, 21. 19 is your shadow, 20 is your midtone, and 21 is your highlight. Now, a lot of those initial core triads, they're very different. And so what I recommend is doing kind of a 50-50 mix between them to make them go better. Like, they're really made, the shadows are usually pretty dark, and the reason is so you can do a wash easily. But if you're doing, like, layering like I do, then do a 50-50 mix. So do a half, one drop 20, one drop 19, do a mix, and then, go up to 20, and then do a mix of 20 and 21 and go straight up, and then go up to 21. That's best results if you're layering. If you're doing washes and dry brushing, though, they should work pretty well as is, but you run into this thing with triads, which was the problem. It was an asset at first, and then it was not an asset anymore, where we had to make all the colors different, right? So you have to make sure that you've got a good range of colors, even while you're developing these triads. It's the challenge of line design with these that I did. So I made the colors quite different so that you had a good selection of just colors if you weren't using them as a triad. But then I also had to make them so they would work decently as a triad together. So, because we wanted to do the triad system because it's training wheels. That said, if you just want to use Snow Shadow 9021 and ignore the rest of the triad and just mix Snow Shadow with other things to create your shadow and highlight, do it. Nothing is making you do the triad. The triad is there if you don't like mixing, if you're not comfortable with it, and you need some help. That's what the triad is there for, to provide you with easy answers. Oh, yeah, that makes sense, Everlina. Hey, Moonglooms. So I'm playing with reddish stones today. Components, as far as what's in it? No, that would be giving away formulas, Josh, and so we don't. I talk about such things in general terms. I'm limited as to what I can do because Reaper's formulas are proprietary, but I created the paint lines, so I have a good understanding of what goes into the paints and how. It's chances are it might not be useful to you even to know them. I talk about them on my Patreon some in the PDFs that I do. I'll often say, well, this uses an oxide pigment, so it's high coverage, and that's why, that this paint has a big front load of yellow, and so you're going to see that when you thin it. I talk about stuff like that on my Patreon. That's where it really is. There was really no place to talk about that sort of thing for Reaper, and it's not something we wanted to put emphasis on. But if you're interested in that sort of thing, then I talk about it on my own private thing. But I mean, it does you a certain amount of good to kind of learn, but it's also kind of what I say also always is it's common sense. If you see a paint that has a very red color or a very yellow color, chances are it's going to be less coverage. If you see a paint that's a rich brown, chances are it's going to have more coverage because oxides have more coverage. If you see a very, very dark color in the Reaper line, it usually means good coverage because our black is a high density pigment black and it has good coverage. So, a lot of times people these days seem to put so much emphasis on knowing which pigments go in which paint, but often if you don't know the pigments, if you're not a paint mixer like me, it means very little to you. All you're pretty much doing is listening to other people tell you about what each of these pigments mean, when actually you should just use the color and figure it out yourself. Yeah, sure. Yeah, it's a whole different ballgame here, right? Yes, the landscape has totally changed. Totally changed. I started at Reaper in 2003 and started working on Master Series in 2004. And I think the first Master Series started to release officially. I think the release was 2005. So I made the paint line for 15 years till I abandoned the home front to move out here to be with my guy out to the West Coast. So I don't make the paint anymore. That's Sadie, my protege. But I still know all the original colors and all the lines up to Bones and Pathfinder were done by me. So yeah, if you have any questions about the paint, you can ask me. The thing you're going to notice probably, KX, right away, is that Master Series is a lot more fluid than some other hobby paints out there. If you're trying stuff like Vallejo or Scale 75, you're going to notice a thicker, goopier consistency. And they go for that. That's the base they're using, and it's used for coverage, but it also tends to be a little bit harder to work with when you're trying to thin it for things like washes and layering and transparent effects and glazes. So we went the other way with Master Series, and it means you don't have to thin it as much. So out the gate for base coating, you could use it right out of the bottle, or you could thin it. I usually thin it about 5-to-1, 4-to-1, paint to water. So, but yeah, it is a whole different thing. What you're going to notice is today's miniature paints are very highly pigmented. In the old days, a lot of companies felt it was a waste of money to do a lot of pigment on in a hobby paint. But over time, as the hobby has gotten to be raised to an art form, and for many painters, paint companies have come to emphasize heavy loads of pigment and high quality bases more. So in general, you're also going to notice that the paint nowadays is a lot higher quality than you used to get as a hobby paint. And I've been painting since I was 9, and that's a long time ago now. So I used everything from Testers to Poly S to Ralpartha, to, up through Citadel in various 3 or 4 different iterations, and Vallejo Game Color. I've used almost everything at this point. Actually, Josh, in addition to using a color wheel app, if you have color blindness, what I usually recommend is concentrating more on dark and light and less on which colors you choose. You choose a limited selection of colors to start with, and probably colors that are fairly true. So like a heraldic red, a sunrise orange, those are fairly good, middle of the road red, orange, maybe candlelight yellow. Things like that, to have your friends help you, or whoever, you can turn to help you pick kind of like a good middle spectrum. And then use a lot of neutrals and concentrate on separating light and dark on your models. For example, if you look at this model, I definitely have light, and dark and light again, and dark, on the boot, and then light on there. If you set up a model so that you have that you can really see light and dark, you notice I've got the darker leather around her throat, the hair is darker than the face. So again, we're doing alternating dark light. If you do that, you're gonna be able to see the parts on your model a lot easier, and it's going to minimize also a lot of color problems you might have if you're always like, okay, I did a dark color here, so I'm gonna do a light color next to it, right? If you do that, even if the colors would naturally tend to clash, they will work a lot better than they would otherwise, because you're going from dark to light to dark to light. And that will help you a lot, I think, as a color with anybody who's got even a little bit of color blindness. Plus, it's just good painting. I mean, it's how I paint. You want to alternate dark light, dark light. If you do nothing else but that, If you do nothing else but alternate dark and light next to each other on the Mini, your painting will suddenly look a lot better because things won't run together. So even before you shade or highlight or anything, if you always use like the dark light alternation, and you can really see it here. And by dark light, obviously I'm not talking black and white, because it's just the hair is darker than the face is lighter than the leather, and then the leather is darker than this cord and breastplate, and then the belt is darker than that, and here we've got light, and then we've got dark again. So doing that sort of thing. And where you see things run together on this Mini is usually where a bunch of stuff is dark. Like here, see? All this up here, except for the highlights. Here I'm just using the highlights to break up, the surface and show you what's different. But in general, I always try to go light, dark, light, dark, light, dark. So that is something that will help anybody in the hobby, and especially if you have a color issue, an issue seeing colors as they are. So, okay, we are going to talk about color wheel and this model. So let's do it. Yeah, 20 years ago, the Citadel range was much more transparent, and I liked that because it was versatile, KX. So you may like Master Series better. Like, if nothing else, pick up, like, our pure white and pure black, and then maybe just a couple of colors that look interesting or pretty to you, and play with them. You're going to find they're a lot more fluid out of the bottle. The transparency with Master Series is like those old GW paints from 20 years ago. So essentially, how much coverage or how see-through they are is going to depend a lot on the pigment that is in them, instead of using a thick, goopy base to try to get more coverage across the board. So, and I always wanted that because you need to be able to do more than just base coat. You need to be, you need coverage here and there in the other places. And some painters work with thick paint for almost everything, until they get down to like a finishing stage with airbrushes where they blend stuff together. But if you're using standard practices where you use the washes and glazing and, maybe you're trying to do some layering, then you're going to get, you're going to find the Master Series is a much easier and faster to get to the paint consistency that you need for those thin paint applications. Yeah, and there's a lot more serious tools. Scrying Eye is correct. A lot more serious tools for mini painting now. Yeah, a lot more knowledge coming in from the fine arts. Yeah, and the model railroad people for sure. All right, that's right. We're gonna talk about like color stuff, and then I'm gonna do some shading on this. All right, so color wheel. This is the odds. Remember the color wheel. Here, let me back out. I'm gonna back out my camera so we can talk about color wheels. All right, that's as far back as we can get. Okay, so right now we've got blue-green on her cape and her cloth. We have a yellow, probably a yellow-orange, because I'm shading it with orange. So we've got a blue-green and a yellow-orange. And let's just go back here and see what we got here. So what are we dealing with? So yellow-orange and blue-green. There is a configuration that makes those colors work together, and it is called the triad. So it's this big triangle shape. And I've got yellow-orange right here, and then I've got blue-green right here. So the fact that I'm using a orangey-yellow. Now, the thing that I have not incorporated here is red-violet. So I haven't done that at all. Now, can I tweak this a little bit? Now I'm looking for, like, using blue, green, and yellow. Like, can I do that? Yeah, I can. Looking around here. So, okay, so this is the back square. It's called a tetrad, and you'll see the transparent lines here, the dark corners. So I've got blue, green, and now yellow instead of orange, yellow. And if I follow my square, I've also got red, orange, which is her hair. And if I follow it over here, I've also got the option to use a violet, a purple on this model if I wanted to. I don't really see any place for it, but if I was going to do it, I might use it to shade my my bricks down here, maybe. So, like, there are a couple of different color combos where either a yellow-orange or a yellow works with my blue-green really well per the color wheel, and also intersects with, the red-orange thing, which is her hair and the bricks down here. So that's kind of like you're looking at the color wheel. Don't just look at a color and say, well, it's ruddy leather. What is it? It's a reddish brown. If it's a reddish brown, then it's a red orange, because browns are all oranges inside. They're just muted oranges. Hey, I'm Groening. All right, 11. You're almost to your anniversary, your sub-anniversary. Thanks, Achilles. we finally covered over her basing, so now she can start to be a real mini soon. And I was just explaining color wheel stuff because color wheel. So yeah, so mostly I was looking at blue, green, and yellow, and yellow to yellow orange. So I was looking at that. I did think about throwing some red violet if I was using the triad between the yellow orange. You can see the triangle here, blue, green, and yellow orange here. I could have used some red violet somewhere in here, and it would have gone just fine. But when I was talking about when you have a weird color and you're not sure where it is, to look not just up here at the bright primaries, but use these other sections of your color wheel. This top one is the color plus white. Then you've got the color plus gray and the color plus black. And if you look here, the color plus black for our redstone color is very similar to kind of a combo between these. It's probably more of a red-orange than it is a pure red and black. So you find something that's close, and then you know where that color is on the color wheel. So her hair and the basing both are similar to this color. So then you know, okay, well then I go up, oh, it's a red-orange. So that's another way you can utilize to figure out what primary color a weird paint is. Like Icy Violet is the one that we were talking about the other day, right? So let's look over at, you can even use the other side, which is even better for interesting ideas. But so let's go over in here and we're adding white. If I go to adding white to violet, it's close, but adding white to blue violet is pretty much dead on. So by looking here and then looking up, I know that this is a blue violet, and now I know how to turn it over and figure out my complementary color, because I just have to focus on the blue violet there. And then I know my complementary color is yellow orange. So that's why the color wheel can be interesting to you if you already have like your complementaries memorized, but having these little windows here to show you the weird matches, like if we go over and we add, if we add blue to, say, a yellow-orange, that gives us kind of a muted green. So it gives us some interesting ways to go to see what we're doing. Adding blue to red-orange gives you a dark violet. Things like that. But mostly you want to use those to figure out what color something is so that that Icy Violet is a blue violet with white added to it. So now you can use these little tools here to figure out a color scheme. All right, enough color wheel for today. Let us continue to highlight things. Let's talk paint. Yeah, I need to tone it down a little bit, Jabberwock, because we don't want to just look at the base. We want to look at her. And right now when I look at her, that base pops a little bit too much. So what I'm going to be doing is probably taking it down just a bit. And using my highlight color to mute it out just a tad. So we're gonna see. You don't want your base to be too saturated. You always want, when you do go for a saturated base, you must always ask yourself, am I still looking at the model first? Or am I staring at the base? And if you're staring at the base, if your eyes go to the base right away, and then you look at the model, then it's bad. You need to take that base down. The base should never be the first thing you stare at. That's the danger of doing a lot of freehand on a base too. Nope, JT, actually I used, I was mucking around. People liked how I did the fire giant that I did, so I decided to use those same colors. So it's actually the Dungeon Dwellers colors, weirdly. So the hair is actually done in the goblin skin and shaded with kobold scale, which is a dark red. And then highlights were mixed with goblin skin, a touch of ogre skin, and some white. I'll show you it on the fire giant. Hold on. Fire giant, come here. Come here, fire giant. He's hiding in the back because he's in shame. I don't feel like working on him right now, so he's sad. So fire giant, there's his hair. So essentially we wanted to match the color of his hair, and I didn't really take it as yellow, because I wanted her to have red hair, and there's a lot of light on his hair where I wanted it to kind of look like it was burning. But we used roughly the same colors. Yeah, you can get them in a box, or you can get them, just ordering them, just like any other color. Their numbers are 9457, 58, and 59. This particular set is the Reaper Bones Dungeon Dwellers Monsters paint set. And it has all sorts of useful colors in there. So yeah, so there's Fire Giant. does his own thing. Always keep in mind, guys, when I give you this advice, I am giving you this advice assuming, and I may not be right, but that you are somewhere around beginner to intermediate level painter. If you are an advanced painter, go crazy, because chances are you have enough knowledge to make anything work. If you're James Wapple, you can push the rules because you understand how to push the rules. But what I want to do is, if you're starting to learn this stuff and you're not fully comfortable with it yet, give you some troubleshooting tools, because the first step after you like set out to learn about miniature painting is learning to troubleshoot what's wrong. So when I give you these tips, it's very much if you get into a situation where your base is distracting, it's going to be either color or it's going to be composition. Or it may be collections of detail that are overwhelming your figure. So we could go on and talk about basing for forever. But, Wapple also has decades of experience as a 2D artist before he went to miniatures, remember, guys. He was a professional for years. So don't necessarily, like, if I told Wapple that rule, he'd be like, well, but I could just do this. And I'm like, yeah, but you're a pro. The people watching my stream, 90% not pro. You know? And so do take my teaching as that, as being that. I'm trying to get you out of trouble. I want to give you guys the tools and the rules so that you can do basic troubleshooting. And once you understand all of this and use it on miniatures, you're going to see ways that you can work around it. You're absolutely going to see ways where you could say, oh, well, Anne said this, but I think I can push the rules. And you'll be right. Absolutely. But I want to keep you out of trouble for those of you who don't know those rules yet. So, yeah, not professional, right? So I would say this base is on the verge of being too much. And so what I'm going to do probably is shade. First, I want to shade around the outside edge. I may choose to take the color down with glaze. I'm actually kind of interested. I bet I could glaze it. Ooh, let's do something clever and totally counterintuitive. Wait, don't tell me. Where is my Tianzia Jade? Let's glaze it with a complementary color. That'll make it go a little less obnoxious and still keep it in. Now, I probably should highlight and shade it before I do this, but I want to see how it works. So, cheaper than art school, yep, and probably better. Ooh, at least if you went to art school, my art school. Hey, Gerard, that's what I'm here for. See, that's what I'm here for. I'm here for you and for all the people who are coming back, because so many people are coming back into the hobby. The hobby is so exciting right now. The models are gorgeous. There's so many companies doing amazing models out there. I mean, who doesn't want to paint? So it's you guys. It's you guys that I'm trying to do this for. Give you basic rules so that when because I don't want, I say this over and over again, the one thing I don't want is for you to come back into the hobby all excited about it and then get frustrated and quit. And so all my tips, all my everything, always ask questions on here. Never feel like you're a noob. Ask the question. I'd much rather have you ask the question and answer it for everybody out there who is trying to not get frustrated with this hobby. Because I want you guys to stay in. Not only do I want you to stay in, I want you to look at your stuff and be really happy with what you're painting. Like, that is my Disneyland. Anybody who I teach, that is my Disneyland. And whether you're happy with it because it's a good, solid gaming model and you're proud of it, or because you're entering competitions and finally winning, doesn't matter. It's like, I teach to all levels. So, but I want you to be happy with what you do, whatever your goal is. So, all right, Tianzia Jade is one of the colors that we mix her teal with. We're going to use it. It's a obnoxious color. I love it, though. It's pretty. So it is a Pathfinder color. So it's one of the last colors I designed for Reaper. And it is a jade green. It's very blue, as you can see. It looks a little yellow there on the palette, but that's just it getting skewed. So it's a green, and we have a red here. So what I'm doing here is, if I want to dim down this red and make it a little less obnoxious, I can put a glaze of this green over the top of it, or what we would call a very light wash, for those of you who are noobs. Everybody has been a noob at one point in their life. So embrace your noobness. Here we go. So a wash is heavier usually because you want it to stick in the cracks and be dark in the cracks. For a glaze, you're actually thinning it even more because what you want to do is kind of just tint the surface you brush it over. Usually when you use a glaze, you're trying to either blend in brush strokes or you're trying to shift the color in a certain way. You may be wanting to shift it like to a more vibrant red, or you may want to shift it lighter or darker. in this case, we think our red base is a little bit intense. So, oh. Obligatory response to purple. Oh, the Baba Yaga hut. If you know what, if you have a significant other who does not want to paint, it is what it is. It is what it is. So, okay, so difference: wash, glaze. See difference? This is just colored water. It's like a real fine filter. It's not. It has no consistency. You know that if you try to put this on like a wash, it's going to dry all funky, right? Because it's not going to hold together very well. We've all had that experience with washes. So a glaze is a broken wash, but in order to get around that and use it, you apply it very differently than you apply a wash. So let me make a little bit more of it because I'm going to put it on this glaze, on this thing. Glazes usually are at least 2 to 1 water to paint. So more water than paint. Double water to paint ratio. So very, very thin. And if you use if your SO paints, it's easier to get approval to buy stuff. Yes, this is true. You could do, I would not use Dusky Skin. The thing is, Jabberwock, if you introduce a grade color, like maybe, but then I wouldn't do that. Okay, let me share something with you guys. If you have a vibrant color and you like it, but it's just a little bit too much, don't put a grayish color over the top of it. Use a complementary color to knock it down. Because for some reason, when you either mix a complementary into a color or use a complementary color to glaze over the top, you keep a lot more of this vibrancy and saturation. I don't want to lose all of my red. I just want to knock it down just like one peg. And so if you use like a really muted color, now the violet shadow might work, but it's going to take it it's also going to take it a lot darker. And I don't necessarily want to do that. That's going to make more work for me, bringing it back up. So hopefully this makes sense to you, because I don't want to lose all of my red. I wanted a vibrant color. I just think it's maybe a little bit too much for her, because right now I'm finding it distracting. So I'm going to hit it with this glaze of green and see what it does. And you're going to see the green like kind of a verdigris there. And I'm going to come by and I'm going to suck it out of those cracks too. I'm going to put it down here, and I'm going to leave some of the regular brick color toward the back so we can compare. Now this is darkening it, or looks like it's darkening it just a little bit. Now come back, rinse out your brush, and you want to wick off all these little puddles of green. Wherever you see a puddle of green, slurp it out, because if you leave it there, it's going to dry very funky. It's going to make rings and funky looking artifacts all over your paint job. You don't want that. So slurp it out, get it out of there. You didn't want to make this green anyway. If you did, you'd go in a lot stronger. I'm going to let that dry and see if it worked. Notice it did make it a little more brown. You guys see the difference? So see that this is more reddish, and weirdly this has gone more of a neutral brown. But it's still vibrant. It's just not as red. I'm liking it a little bit better. It's a very subtle shift. Now, when you glaze, it should be a subtle shift, guys. It should not be... If you see a huge shift from one layer of glaze, your glaze is too strong. You want to put it on as thin as you possibly can, because you can always put another layer on it. You can see it from the side if you look. It looks more red back here. And it looks more brown up here. But I have pretty good color vision. So anybody who's got a little bit of off of color vision might not see this. That's how subtle it is. Yeah, BCA paint is perfect for that, I'm grunting. So that's subtle. I can see it, but a lot of you can't. So let me put another layer on. Now that it's all dry. You gotta make sure it's all dry. So boop-a-doop-a-doop-a-doop. Boop-a-doop. Boop-a-doop. Another layer of the green. Let's just play around with this, guys. All right. Once again, not going to touch the upper surfaces. Just going to rinse out my brush. If you see bubbles just blow on the model, you can just pop them. I'm just going to use the edge of the brush to suck this green out of here. Now, just from doing this, I am seeing that, you know, putting a little bit of maybe a dark green between the flagstones might look pretty cool. Or I might just put some grass sprouting up in there. So putting some green in here would be kind of nice. Now it's starting to gray out a little bit more. But are you seeing now how it's like more red back on these stones? And how it's really going more yellowy almost on the front stones? It's taking me more brown and away from red. If I keep going with this, I'm going to get down to... I'm going to lose my red, though. I'll tell you that. Because already I've lost a fair amount of it, and it's kind of muted it out. It's gone a little bit almost gray in places. Gotta pull some of this. I missed some. So it's a little more grayish. Are you guys seeing that? Gotta take off some of this stuff on the top. It's not nearly as red. See how rich that back is? And look how washed out the front is now. Sure, Gerard. Oh, I know a ton. Okay. One of the first international award-winning painters I ever met, Gerard, was colorblind. He was a Golden Demon winner. He came out for his first year at Golden Demons and won 7. He was one of the best painters I ever knew. Jason Richards. It's amazing Nurgle's army stuff. But yeah, he was colorblind. Like, and we all noticed at the time, like before we knew him, we noticed that his color choices were really unique. Well, it turns out that that's just because of the way he saw colors. So you are not alone. There are a ton of people in the hobby who are colorblind, and they still enjoy it, and they still do great at it, whatever level they choose to reach. So, absolutely. And a lot of this stuff, like I said, a lot of the subtle stuff with glazes, you guys may have a lot of trouble with, right? Because a lot of people with colorblind, especially if you've got like kind of a red interference colorblind or a red-green colorblind, you have a really hard time seeing the difference between that and that. So, but hopefully some of the other ones of you can see there's much more red back here now, and there is much less red up where I've been putting the green. So, I mean, this stuff is subtle, but for me, it's important because I'm like trying to nail, like I want the model, I still want this reddish color. And when you pull back, you can still see you still have a reddish color here, but it's no longer, see how bright it is in the back. And I found that distracting, but now I'm liking that. Like now this is muted enough on the base that it's not distracting me from the model. My eye no longer flies down to this. Yes, it does. It definitely is giving you a dirty look, right? Because you're muting it, Val. And when you mute something, you are graying it out or you're washing it out, and that's going to make it look dirty. I could use other colors to like knock this down. Like I could use dark brown. I could use a dark purple. But if I use something that's a lot darker, it's also going to darken the color way down. And I didn't want to necessarily do that. So now my challenge is to progress with this color. And given what I've noticed here with a more dirty grayed out color here and a more vibrant color here, I may want to just add a little bit of jade to my original mixture. Because then if I'm going to mix highlights using this, I'll already have muted it. And there are times when mixing does not give you the same effect as glazing. Because they are different. I mean, the pigments are still kind of interacting and overlaying each other. But they're not directly mixing. And so sometimes you get different effects that way. Hello, bee. Beef. Beef with the banana. But, anyway. So, yeah. So, we're going to go, I think I'm just going to mix a highlight not using the green. And see if I can make it work still. Because I am going to add some white and some yellow. I'm going to use lemon yellow. Because that's what I've been using. Alright. Yeah, it's closer to her belt now, right? Yeah, because it looks more like it actually, you good eye, Margaret, because it's more like ruddy leather. Because I've washed some of the red out of it that I added. So I'm going to add a little bit of lemon yellow. So when I do mixes, as most of you know who have watched me paint for any length of time, if I'm already working with a mixture to start with. I will mix my highlights and shadows usually by taking a little bit of that mixture over and mixing a color with it. That's why I tend to mix a large puddle of my original colors so that I have enough to do this with. So I'm using lemon yellow, and lemon yellow has yellow and white in it. So the white is going to wash out the color even a little bit more. So it should work for a highlight, even against this greenish, the glazes that I was using. So we're going to try it and see. So that was probably about a 3-to-1. I took about 3 brushfuls of the original color and then mixed 1 drop of lemon yellow into it. Let's see here. And I want to kind of paint this. I'm going to paint it actually on my outside top rim of stones to see if it is light enough. Testing colors now, essentially, before I start. I'm not going to worry about texture right now until I make sure that I've got the color the way I want it. That's pretty good. If you want to do any texture starting out, if you're pretty sure you've got it nailed, you can just kind of stipple a little bit on the rocks. Can also always add in like cracks to the rocks and break them up a bit. I will often emphasize the edges of stones with highlights because that's where they would chip and wear. Also, if you have a light direction, then that's the edge you want to emphasize. For example, if my light is coming from, hold on. So if it's like our pirate, let me get some yellow out here. I'm just going to use some straight up lemon yellow because there's no harm in it. Get some water in it. So if you have a frontal light source, you want to kind of pay attention to that on your basing. And then if you're going to highlight the edge of a stone, it should be the one that's going to pick up the light from the light source. So if you have a frontal light source, one that's a light that is coming from the front, the highlight on your edge stones isn't necessarily going to be all around the stone. It's going to be on the front edge. The edge that is facing the light will get more highlight. And doing that is going to emphasize where the light is coming from, just as much as doing it on the figure. So if I'm emphasizing that edge there, and then I emphasize this edge, just doing a quick highlight, then that is going to give you the appearance of the light coming from the front. So when you're doing flagstones, keep that in mind, that you wouldn't just, necessarily edge all of them. And I also am going to leave an area on shadow right under the figure. So I'll probably come back with my black and brown and actually block in a shadow. I'm going to do it pretty subtly. Don't need a really dark one. She's in pretty bright light, just judging from her armor highlights and everything. So let's put a shadow in. I'm using my black and brown. I'm thinning it way down so that I can kind of just put a little bit of a suggestion of it. See how I'm painting that in. Dark shadow right under the model. And a little bit behind, because her cape would cast a shadow. And just because you're painting a shadow doesn't mean that you lose all your detail in that area. You're just, bowing to the fact that light would definitely be blocked there. And I'll usually use this to also do a dark shadow like right around her feet. Anywhere, again, you're kind of lining at that point. So we've got a shadow. Yay, shadows. So it's not going to be super like in your face shadow, but it will exist. It is visible. Kind of use your best judgment and figure out, is this, does this look right? where I put this. That's why I like starting with a bit of a subtle shadow color and building it up. I'm also going to apply that shadow color a little bit to the front here, in front of the stones. Toward the road. It could look just like dirt, depending on how you do it, since I'm using a brown for it. So that's going to darken the rim of that, the stone there, and it's going to bring the top into relief. Thanks, Aristel. She feels so close to done, but then I look at her pieces and parts, and I'm like, there is so much to do here. Now, Margaret, you made an interesting observation a little bit ago, which is that when I did the glaze of the green over the red stones, they actually were almost totally into line with the color we used up here, which was ruddy leather, I believe. This is a good thing because, remember, we're repeating colors on the model, and that can include the basing if you want it to. So by bringing this closer to that leather color, which is the other red-brown on the figure, I'm also reducing the chance that anything is going to clash. And I'm still getting a reddish, like, there's no doubt that this is reddish stone, right? You're still getting it. It's just not as, see, that's the red we started with. Do you guys see the difference now? Like, look at the red there. And then look at the red there. This is still red. It's still a red base. But it's not like a super hit you in the face red. Just going to stipple a little bit down here on the street with some of my highlight color. Just to bring a little texture in. Yeah, and that's what I like to see, is you should, whenever you look at a miniature, you want to look at the most important part first. So, like, when you look at the figure, if you find that your eyes are immediately going to the feet or way out here to this glowing sword or, whatever you've done, that isn't necessarily where you've got to ask yourself a question then is, do I want that? Because usually the first thing you want to look at is the expression and the stance of the figure, and then your eyes kind of work down. And then usually you want something that's going to lead the eye around the figure. So you're going to look at the top, work your way down, and then back up. James Gurney has an interesting article on this in one of his, it may be Color and Light, but where they've done eye tracing, pattern recognition when people look at artwork, and they without exception they usually look at like faces first and warm light colors next, and then they're just going to go all over the place, right? So you're essentially, as an artist, when you're doing a miniature, you're controlling what your viewer is going to look at first. Is the name of the game when it comes to if you're working with that kind of thing in mind. If you want people to look at the face you did, then you make sure that they're still looking at the face you did. But yeah, I'm keeping this back part, the original color that we painted it on purpose, so you guys can see the difference with the two glazes and now the highlights that I'm putting on it. Where I still have it red, but it's a lot more manageable. And as I continue to highlight this, we'll interfere more with that reddish color. I'm going to stipple a lot. I'm going to start stippling now and kind of bringing out some cracks and detailing. Like, see that nice crack there? We want to bring that out and make it stand out. Yeah, eyes up here, exactly. Don't be rude to your mini. So at this point, I'll take some black and brown, and I'll kind of get on this this crack here. When I sculpt rocks like this, when I sculpt stone bases, I often include fractures and crack marks. There's no reason not to, because then you don't have to worry about sculpting a perfect stone finish. You can just get close, get relatively good, and you'll be fine. Even up here, you can just kind of draw in a couple of little cracks if you want to. Like that. Just to suggest that the roadway is more broken up. If you want this to look older, if you want this street corner to look really new and pristine, then keep everything neat and don't put any cracks on. It's all what you want to do. Who knew we'd end up doing a lot of rock painting today? I may as well keep going though, because I'm 20 minutes out from the end, and so far Kiri has stayed asleep. Let's hope that continues. I'm gonna have to probably rush her out right at the end of the stream. The doglet needs her outs. So I'm gonna hit the edge here again with a little bit of my lemon yellow. Want to bring this up. I'm using pure lemon yellow just thinned down for this. You can do highlights in a couple of different ways, just like you can do, highlights on anything in a couple different ways. You can either mix colors gradually, and gradually apply a lighter and lighter coat. Or you can go straight up to a highlight color like lemon yellow or NMM gold highlight or pure white or whatever, thin it way down and apply it straight up. If you thin it, it's going to be somewhat transparent. So essentially, you can get there faster by just building up layers of that. Especially on base work, if I don't want to spend tons of time layering and I'm not trying to get a perfect blend because it's basing, I'm inclined to do the faster highlights just to get things in place a little bit faster if I'm impatient. Now, as you get further back toward the shadow area you blocked in, you want to make sure to keep your shadow in mind. If you need to kind of blend in your shadow a little bit, then, keep that in mind also. You can use your midtone color to kind of blend it in if you're looking at more of a diffused light source. But for me, it's actually a sunny day where she is. I've actually put some blue sky hints into her armor and swords. So I'm going to keep a pretty strong shadow. I'll probably keep the shadow as strong as I originally painted it, and I'm going to make the edges, I'm not going to blur them any more than they already are. I'm going to keep them fairly sharp. Yep, exactly. Stone really has only one color in it, and even if it does, it often has dust or dirt adhering to the surface, or plant matter, or moss or lichens or whatever you name it. So stone gets more natural the more you put in it. Even brickwork, which is what this technically is. I think I need to mix a little bit of that. I'm bringing out some suggestion of little texture on the street here. I did an initial stipple, and now I'm just following the previous stipples that I've done to make it look consistent. So let's see if I can get you guys to see that. See those little stipples? Yeah, there we go. So I've got a little bit of a subtle pattern here on the stones in front. And I can make that as defined as I want to. There you go, you can see it. So kind of just a subtle, not as stark as the brickwork. Yeah, I did. The center part that she's standing on is her actual integral base, Jabberwock, and then I just put green work around it. That's what I tend to do, is I'll put a model, I'll stick it onto one of these bases that Reaper makes, and then I'll just sculpt green stuff around it, however it makes sense to do it. So sometimes I'm just building a mound where I can put grass on it, or, sometimes we do what we did with Snack Lady and build an entire little almost diorama base with all, sculpted with green stuff around her integral base to create a setting. But I like doing it this way because for one thing, it raises your character up a little bit to use this integral base. It kind of puts them up just a little higher because they're on a step, right? They're on a step or a little mound of dirt or a rock. We sculpted for this guy. He comes standing on rock, but we sculpted more stone to kind of like, you know, blend it in to his base. Things like that. It's when you get something big and fat like this model, where she's on a huge metal base, that you run into trouble with doing that, because you have to put her on such a big pie plate of a base that it's usually out of scale for her. But things with smaller bases, I like to mount. Like when we finish doing Zari for our D&D game, which is on for this afternoon, by the way, guys. So when we do Zari, I'm going to do, she's got the same kind of base as Alethea here. So I can do the same sort of treatment with her if I wish to. In that she's a little bit bigger, so her circle is going to fit a lot better onto the space. I might not need to do much. And for her little dog, we'll have to give them both bases. But it's not hard. Like, this is one of the easiest ways to learn to do, like, stonework Jabberwock. Because you've already got a pattern right here. So you're just extending that pattern out just a little bit farther. And so it's a good way to start learning to work with basing putties to do this sort of work. Because it's relatively low stress. You just need to give it a little bit of extra oomph. Like, you know, I just did the little curve on the front here to give her more of a, like she's standing on a curb. You know, it makes you think about where your character is in the world, and so you can give them even more atmosphere as to where they are, like Snack Lady with her little stream that we did, that I still have to do the water effects for. I just haven't been in the mood. I'll get in the mood eventually. Do a little bit more of this highlighting. If you have any cracks, remember to highlight the edge behind them, as it would catch the light. So like this back edge of that little crack. This is all practice, guys. It's taken me a while to get better with green stuff. And to be honest, if I had been good and worked more with green stuff, it wouldn't have taken me nearly so long. But I got frustrated with green and went and did a lot of stuff with Sculpey, which is a lot more clay-like. That's an oven baking epoxy clay. And that did help me a little bit. It gave me confidence in sculpting like rocks and you know, stones like this, because I got to practice in a medium that was, I think, less frustrating than green. I still had to then learn to work with green stuff more, but it gave me a little bit of a confidence boost, and that's never a bad thing. All right, so we're really highlighting the front of that now. You can see the light, right? You can see the light falling, and that's actually painted light now. It's not just light from my lamp. So the highlights that you're seeing on the front there are just from the paint. And then again, a reminder, like, okay, so this is how she looks right now with her reddish basing. Remember the color we started with, how garish that was. So now I hope you're all seeing now how this was not the best choice. But with just a bit of work, we've kept our color that we wanted, and we're, you know, working with it on a basis where it works with the model a lot more and is less distracting. If you don't want to sculpt basing, you don't have to. I mean, like I said, the Zari base probably fits great into the middle of a Reaper round. Actually, I have one. Let me see. I have one sitting right in front of me. But it's stuck to the table. Ah, no. It just doesn't want to pop up because it's on my glass table, and trying to pick up a round base when it's on a glass table is very annoying. Okay, here we go. So let's see here. Oh, that might actually be a different company's base. Yeah, that is. That's a little bit wider. So not all bases are created equal. These are different. This one is the Reaper one, I believe. And Zari looks like she probably would fit pretty well on there, but learning to do a little bit of green stuff, though, is never a bad idea. Let's see here. Oh, let's see. I think I want to do the street a little bit more. Let's add a little bit more highlight to the street. And anytime you've got a reddish brown like this, using an orange or a yellow, mixing that in to highlight it is generally a good idea. it gives it a nice warm color, which is in keeping with if it's a bright sunlit day. There we go. So we got a little texture there now, suggesting the street might have a little bit of texture in it, just not as sharp of texture as it is up here. So I'm using lemon yellow, like I said, 9009. Lately I'm on a lemon yellow kick. And remember, I'm going to let that shadow just kind of fade back into here. So I'm going to hit the front of this rock where it's applicable. But the minute I hit the shadow area, I'm going to let the shadow kind of fade out. You can see the back. You can see like hitting the back side of that rock a little bit in the shadow. And I'll probably play along with that a little bit. Just use like a little bit of my first highlight to hit that. Because there would probably be a little bit of bounce light back there. I don't want to just leave it totally dead. So just use a little tiny bit. There we go. So that's how we have. Yeah, it takes a while. Yeah, Milliput's a good putty for it. Abe's Epoxy Sculpt is a good putty for it. It's a little bit more frustrating in green because green wants to get smushy and round and it doesn't like to do edges until it sets up a little bit, but you can still do it. I used green for this. I just used a slightly harder mix. So yeah, I'm happy with this. There's your, now you can really see your dichotomy, guys. Look at that. You can see how red the rear part is. I'm hoping that even those of you with a little bit of color blindness can see that. I think the little cracks and fissures really bring out like some character. She's coming along. She's another one of those Izzy designs where it seems deceptively simple. It seems like you're close to done, and then you start looking at the amount of detail you have to do, and suddenly you're like, oh no, we're not done. So, but yeah, so that's working out really well. If I wanted to, I could use these same colors to highlight the leather that she's got on. I can certainly use them to touch up the leather. There's a couple of areas up here where I definitely missed a spot up on the leather on top of her shoulder. Yeah, right. It looks like half of it was power washed, right? Oh, Crowley. I missed the cutout here, so I need to put this in as skin. I need to highlight that hand. I need to do all the NMM gold on all of these surfaces. I need to highlight the yellow. I need to highlight the belt. I have not done the sword blades on the back. I have not done the gold. I have not done the scabbard. I have not done the NMM on these arms on the back, though this one has started. I have not done the black leather on the back. So there's a lot. If I'm going to do any freehand, I need to do that. I need to finish the cobblestones on the back. And last of all, as pointed out, the eyes. Oh, and the flower on the side of her head. I mean, the fact that I've finished so much of her makes her look done, but in reality, she is not done. And so when I look at that long laundry list of stuff to do, I mean, I'll probably spend a whole day doing the NMM, and that will help a lot. Like, once I was going to do a gold NMM today, but then we got into a talk about color theory, and I wanted to show you guys really the difference and how much better muting out that stonework makes the whole model look. So yeah, so good. So I'm gonna actually, while I've got my green glaze, I'm gonna glaze the back half of this now. Now, since you've all seen the crazy dichotomy, we will put our green glaze on the back to take it down. And the green glaze is also evaporated a little bit, so it's probably a little stronger. So right away, that's starting to pull it more in line. You see that? Right away, it's starting to make it look more like the front. Gonna slurp off. Don't never forget to slurp off the excess paint. When you do a glaze, you do not want it drying on your model. Ever. It will dry wonky and make weird shapes. Nobody likes a glaze that has pooled and dried. It has no friends. Alright. So now, look, that now it looks less garish, right? One layer of glaze, that's all that took to get it a lot more in line with the front. I can actually try not even to do a second layer of glaze. Originally we had to do 2 layers, but like I said, my glaze has evaporated a little bit and gotten thicker, so we may be able to get away with just going for highlights now. So let's see what is today. Today is Wednesday. Right? No, Tuesday. Today's Tuesday. Tuesday. So it's Crow's Nest this afternoon, right? Right, Justin?
Correct.
Who does Michael have on for a guest today?
It's actually Ron.
Oh my gosh! Okay, everybody needs to get on and give Ron guff. Like this is like an official Reaper job description thing. So if you all want to be official Reaper fans, you should totally get on and help Michael throw Ron under the bus. I also will be doing my own stream today. Our D&D stream will be going. It'll be going a little later, so you'll have plenty of time to throw Ron under the bus and then come over and visit me on twitch.tv/paintingbig. We are role-playing our first character. We started last week Thursday, and it was so much fun. So now we will, today, complete our prelude, our session 0 for Zari the Bard, and get her to Port Abandon so that we can start working on other characters and getting their stories and getting them to Port Abandon. And by the time we've done all that, we'll be able to start and have a really good grasp of all our characters and possible plot hooks. Is Dave next week to talk taxes? Crow's Nest goes at, is it 4 p.m. Central? Is that correct?
Yes, it's 4 p.m. Central to 5 p.m. Yep.
Yep, okay. So yeah, and I'll be on somewhere around 4:30, 4:45, depending on how it goes. I don't want to pull people away from Michael's stream. And we usually don't start role-playing until a little bit further into my stream anyway, guys, because I like to make sure we've got enough people. I like to see at least like 35, 40 people before we start role-playing. So we'll talk about painting, and then when we have enough people, we'll begin role-playing. So again, I'm paying attention to my lighting, bringing these in. I'm on twitch.tv/paintingbig, Gerard. It's actually my Twitch is paintingbig, and my Patreon is patreon.com/paintingbig. So you can always find me on Instagram and all the rest of it, as well as paintingbig. It's my branding that I started when I started my Patreon. Is we think big and we paint big. And sometimes we paint actually big when I paint very large things. But yeah, that's where you find me. Go ahead and follow me. We're doing kind of a weird thing with our D&D stream. I don't think anybody else out there on the web is doing it, but it's like cooperative roleplay. So right now, like when we play Zari, everybody gets to play Zari. I ask the entire Twitch chat, what do you do? And you get to tell me, and then we decide what's the best response. Or if there's just a really awesome response, I just take it and have people roll dice. So yeah, we have fun. It's an experiment. So I'm sure that we'll develop, house rules and, a way to tackle, things that aren't working as we go on. But right now I'm having a lot of fun role playing with you guys. So it's a good substitute for not having a D&D game out here because of COVID and moving and all that. And hey, I get to learn 5th edition, so pretty happy about that. Right now what I'm seeing about it is that it can be complicated, but they don't make you make it complicated. Like some of the stuff I'm looking at is like the feats are optional. You can choose to allow feats in your game, or you can choose not to as a GM, which I appreciate. Yeah, throw an apple at it. And you did! And your apple rolled under the divan, so you could not retrieve it. Oh, come on. You all know that sometimes you have bad dice luck, and sometimes you have good dice luck. So you should never assume that you should stop rolling dice on my stream unless you try it more than one day. Now, if you continually roll 3s, then okay. I do on occasion like to I do like a critical and fumble system. I try not to penalize the players too much for fumbles, but I do like to role play a little bit of extra something that oh no moment. Because, you know, whenever you can make things worse, it's better for the story. All right, so now we're pulling our basing really in line. Our basing is getting really in line with both parts of it marching in the same direction. I wanted to, since I've got all these colors mixed up, I wanted to make sure we were getting there. That side looks really good because of all the cracks and fissures and stuff. I think I may paint the backside dark. I think I'm actually going to do it as a shadow. I'll grab my blackened brown, and I won't paint it black like the base, but I'll paint it a dark brown, just to show the, you know, this is where the visual effects end. I didn't want to put cobblestones back there because technically the street extends behind her. So it's kind of just that, you know, when you paint the back of your diorama black to show that there's nothing to see here. It's kind of what I'm going for here. All right, so, but it's a little less intrusive than just painting it black. It's just a shadow. So there, then you just kind of ignore it. The minute you paint it dark, you're kind of giving a clue to the eye that there's nothing to see here, and so you look at the base above it, and you don't really pay attention to the dark color down below. And that's what you want on something like that, where you're implying that the street keeps going. There we are. Because I didn't want to paint it ruddy leather, Val. I wanted something redder. It may look like ruddy leather right now, but it's not. If I put ruddy leather down here on the board, you'd see that it actually is different. I was not intending for it to shift to ruddy leather, but it tended to go in that direction, and that worked with the fact that we used ruddy leather up here. In reality, if they had been slightly different, or even more slightly different, it wouldn't have been bad. It was just that I needed to take it down from the intense red that it used to be. So I wasn't out to do that. I was out to dull down my redstone, and it happened to go in the direction of ruddy leather, which happened to work. But I wouldn't have started the street with ruddy leather because ruddy leather is way too intense, in my opinion, to have started the groundwork with. I just wouldn't have, I don't know. I don't like ruddy leather as a basing color at all. I like it as a leather color. I like the redstone. What I should have done, or could have done actually, is what this is far more like is the saddle brown straight up. I could have just used straight up saddle. I wouldn't have gotten quite so red. You can see the difference. But I could have started with this and gone up with this, and it would have been just fine with everything. Basing is just, well, a lot of the times when I paint, it's a work in progress, where I'm just adjusting as I go. And a lot of us do that. A lot of times David went through that with his huge dragon monster, where he adjusted that sucker's colors at least 4 times, I think. Because he had the colors kind of where he wanted them, but then he had to glaze, and then he had to repaint, and then he was, having trouble with the orange, and all this kind of thing. And so all of us, even the best of us, maybe even especially the best of us, start with an idea, and then if it doesn't work, we adjust. And it's learning how to troubleshoot. Like I said toward the start of this show, is learning how to troubleshoot is a big part of getting to be a better painter. Hey, Dragon Eye, bye-bye. Have fun. Have a good lunch. Thanks, Aristelle. Yeah, I really like her. I really like this model. I'm glad that I got some of the basing done on her. It gives her a place to be. I do still want to put like some green grass down here, just as a counterpoint a little bit to the teal up here. Maybe just a little tuft coming out of the crack there between the street and the curb. Little bit of grass. I can probably find some good green, paler green static grass for that. Anyway, I think it's actually, Kyria slept through the whole show. I'm a little worried now. I don't use flock, Aristelle. I use static grass, and I always paint my static grass. I'm actually one of those people who gets really annoyed when I see basing materials that are not painted. And by painted, I mean I don't base coat it all, but I at least put a little bit of a dry brush of color over it. The reason is that static grass is translucent, tends to be shiny, and that tends to look a little bit artificial and weird. So by putting a light dry brush, not only can I highlight the grass or shift its color more towards something that will work with the figure, but I can also dull down that shininess, and then it looks more like real grass.
I love that blue green and the silver and MM together.
I like the teal.
It's very teal. Yeah, it's very nice.
Yeah, I think the teal and silver is good too. So yeah, next time you're looking for a color scheme for a mini, silver and teal works great together.
Yeah, they look very, very good together.
Yeah, Moonglooms. I just do a little bit of a dry brush. Like I'll use a dry brushing brush even, and dry brushing is fully fair on basing materials. So I'll use a smaller one than this probably. Or if it's a really tiny tuft of grass, I will just use my regular brush and very lightly kind of dab it. Take a lot of the paint off my brush and just kind of brush the top strands. Yeah, feel free to steal. Feel free to steal the color combo. Awesome.
All right, Miss Ann, do I need to start looking for a raid?
Yeah, you should raid. No, David is not, but I think he's been ignoring this one, even though it is his color scheme. It almost is. He likes teal and orange, actually. And this is teal and yellow with orange shadows, so. But yeah, I'm sure if David comes in and stares at this one, he'll be like, the eyes! But I think he's getting resigned. After living with me for over 6 months now, I think he's getting resigned to my eyeless model staring at him from the shelf. Unstaring at him from the shelf. Yes. Glad you guys all stopped in. I hope you had a wonderful day. I hope I'll see you on the D&D stream this afternoon, and I hope you will go and bug Ron on Crow's Nest. We're going to raid Zambies. Well, we can work on her eyes. We can do her eyes soon. I promise, okay? All right, guys. Have a great day, and I will see you later. Adios.
Thanks very much, guys. I'll see you this afternoon.